Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into Fernanda Torres' Oscar nomination.
Oh, this is exciting.
It is. I know a lot of you have been, talking about this and wanted to know more about it.
Yeah, what a story.
So, to kind of quickly set the stage for everyone, Fernanda Torres is a Brazilian actress, and you might already know her mother, Fernanda Montenegro.
A legend.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
A legend in Brazilian film and theater. And Torres herself has really made a name for herself in film, TV, and theater. And now she's been nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars for I'm Still Here.
And the film is in Portuguese.
It is. It's a Portuguese language film. And this nomination makes her only the second Brazilian to ever be nominated for an acting Oscar.
Wow.
And the first was...
You can't make this up.
I know. The first was her mother.
It's amazing.
So we are going to kind of unpack all of this today. We're going to look at the film, I'm Still Here. We're going to delve into Fernanda Torres' journey to this Oscar nomination. And then we'll also look at the broader context of Brazilian cinema and its impact on Hollywood.
It's a big one.
It is. And on top of all of that, we're going to talk about a controversy that has kind of resurfaced from Torres' past that I think sparks some really important conversations.
It's really interesting how that all kind of came about at this time.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get started with the film, I'm Still Here. It's based on a true story of Eunice Paiva, whose husband was a political dissident who disappeared during Brazil's military dictatorship.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important thing to understand in order to really get this film. So for those who don't know, Brazil was under a military dictatorship from 1964 to 1985.
Oh, wow.
And it was a period of intense political repression and human rights violations. So films like I'm Still Here, I think, are so crucial because they shine a light on this dark chapter and they tell these personal stories that otherwise might be forgotten.
And I mean, just thinking about Eunice's story for a moment, imagine being interrogated, possibly tortured.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. And then on top of that, your husband disappeared.
And you have no idea what happened to him.
Right. And she still continues to search for the truth while raising your children.
It's incredible strength.
It is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And the film really captures this quiet strength.
Yeah. It's interesting because it kind of avoids those typical tropes of, films about dictatorships, right? Like you don't see grand political gestures or violent resistance. Instead, it just focuses on these small acts of courage, these everyday moments of resilience.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier how this film is getting attention beyond, kind of the typical foreign film categories. What makes I'm Still Here stand out in a way that maybe other critically acclaimed Brazilian films haven't?
I think there's something about this film that just touches on a really universal experience, right? Like everyone can relate to fear and uncertainty and that fight to protect the people you love. Those are emotions that go way beyond language and borders. Plus, the film is incredibly well made. The director, Walter Salles, who also did Central Station and The Motorcycle Diaries, he has this amazing ability to capture those nuances of human emotion. And then on top of that, you have Fernanda Torres' performance, which just anchors the whole film.
Yeah. Let's talk about her journey to this Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
She grew up around acting, with her mother being such a prominent figure. Did she always want to follow in her mother's footsteps?
It's funny you should ask that because she actually resisted going into acting for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but clearly talent runs in the family because she found success super early on. She won Best Actress at Cannes when she was only 20 for a role that was very different from what her mother was doing at the time.
Wow, 20 years old, Best Actress at Cannes. That must have been incredible. What was the role?
So it was a coming-of-age story set in Rio, and it was so different from her mother's kind of social issue dramas. It was really a statement, I think, that she was her own artist.
Yeah.
Forging her own path.
Yeah. So even with that really early success, Torres has said that she didn't really see herself ever making it in Hollywood.
Right. I mean, she felt limited by not speaking English as a first language and just not a lot of opportunities for foreign actors in Hollywood.
And especially, probably at that time, for Brazilian actors.
Yeah, I think so. But it's just so interesting, right? Because all these years later, she's getting global recognition for a Portuguese language film.
It's like the opposite of what she expected.
Oh, what film?
Well, let's talk about her role as Eunice. How did she approach this character who endured so much?
Well, Torres is known for doing a lot of preparation for her roles. And for this one, she went above and beyond. She read everything Eunice wrote, spent months just researching her life, and even spoke to people who knew her.
Wow. So it's interesting because Eunice is not really this big, flamboyant character. She's very internal, very reserved. How did Torres even approach playing that?
That's part of what makes this performance so incredible. It's really subtle. She captures Eunice's strength through these really small things like facial expressions, a little bit of a tremor in her voice, the way she holds herself.
Interesting.
It's not a big performance, but it's so powerful.
Yeah. I read that there's a scene in an ice cream parlor that Torres described as being a turning point for her. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple scene on the surface. Eunice takes her kids out for ice cream, just trying to, keep things normal.
Yeah.
But Torres said that while filming, she just completely felt like she became Eunice, like she wasn't acting anymore. She described it as this really profound emotional experience.
Wow. That gives me chills just thinking about it. It sounds like she really poured her heart and soul into this. But as we mentioned before, along with all this success, there's also this shadow from Torres's past that has come up.
Yes. So there's this clip that resurfaced from a Brazilian comedy show in 2008 where she's in blackface. And it immediately got a ton of backlash.
Yeah. So how do we kind of reconcile this with her current success and this really powerful performance in I'm Still Here?
It's a really complicated issue. You have to understand the context. At the time, using blackface in Brazilian comedy was sadly more common than it is now.
Right.
Which obviously doesn't excuse it. But it shows how much our understanding of racial sensitivity has evolved.
Yeah,
so
right. That's a good point.
It's a good point.
And how has Torres responded to all this?
So she addressed it directly. She acknowledged that what she did was insensitive. She explained the cultural context at the time, and she really emphasized how much she's grown and how much better she understands racial justice now.
It's important to, hold people accountable for their actions,
Oh, absolutely.
but also recognize that people can change and grow.
It's a process.
It is. It's a much bigger conversation that we need to be having, not just in Brazil, but everywhere, really, about how we look at past mistakes, especially as our understanding of things changes over time.
Yeah, for sure.
So that wraps up part one of our deep dive into Fernanda Torres' Oscar nomination. We talked about this powerful film, I'm Still Here, and we went into Torres' journey as an actress and touched on that controversy from her past.
What a career.
It is. And next time we're going to talk about the bigger impact of this nomination. Not just for Torres, but for Brazilian cinema in general.
Can't wait.
All right, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
It's amazing to think about how Fernanda Torres didn't think she'd ever make it in Hollywood. And now she's nominated for Best Actress for a film in Portuguese.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And this nomination is a huge deal, not just for Torres, but for Brazilian cinema.
I can imagine.
Latin American films, they haven't really had a lot of success outside of the foreign film category at the Oscars.
It's like they're kind of stuck there almost.
Yeah.
Like there's this assumption that they can't be good enough to win something like Best Picture.
Exactly. And that's what makes I'm Still Here so interesting. It really could change things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's demanding to be seen as just a great film, period, not just a great foreign film.
Right.
And it's working. It connects with people across languages and cultures.
Yeah. And Torres has even talked about how she hopes that this nomination will open doors for other Brazilian actors and filmmakers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she's talked about how her own mother's nomination for Central Station back in '98. Well.
And that was another film directed by Walter Seltz, right?
Yeah. So, that film was a big success critically and commercially, but it didn't really change things for Brazilian actors or directors.
So she's hoping that this time will be different.
Yeah, I think so. I think she really hopes that I'm Still Here will have a lasting impact.
Do you think so? I mean, how do you think this nomination will change things? Not just for Brazilian cinema, but for all foreign films in general.
It's hard to say for sure, but I think it's a good sign.
Yeah.
It shows that audiences are more open to stories from different cultures and perspectives.
Yeah.
And when a film like I'm Still Here gets nominations in major categories, it sends a message that these stories are important.
It's funny because Brazil has this incredibly rich history of film. But I think a lot of people who don't live there have only seen a handful of Brazilian films.
Right, and there are so many amazing things out there. Like, what about the films of Hector Babenco?
Oh, yeah.
So vibrant, so gritty. Or the poetic realism of Glauber Rocha or Fernando Meirelles.
Yeah.
I mean, these filmmakers, they deal with social injustice, political corruption, just the complexities of life in Brazil. And they do it with so much depth and artistry.
It makes you wonder what else is out there that we're missing.
Right. Not just from Brazil, but from all over the world.
Exactly. And maybe this is the kind of moment that will make people more curious and make them want to explore films that they might not normally watch.
I hope so. I mean, there's a whole world of cinema out there, and it's just waiting to be discovered.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a second and talk about Fernanda Torres' career. Aside from I'm Still Here,
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that she's known for her versatility.
She really is. It's incredible. She can do it all. Film, television, theater, comedy, drama. She even writes.
No way. So she doesn't shy away from taking risks.
Not at all. She's always exploring new genres, new styles, new ways of telling stories. She's a very intelligent actress. She brings so much depth to every role.
I read somewhere that she credits her theater background with shaping her approach to acting. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, she said once that theater just demands this rawness, this immediacy that you don't really get in film.
Oh.
You know, you're on stage, you're exposed, there are no second takes, you have to be present in the moment. And that takes a lot of fearlessness.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can definitely see how that translates to a more authentic performance on screen.
And you see it in her performance as Eunice. It's so raw and emotionally deep, it feels incredibly real.
So we talked before about how she prepared for I'm Still Here, all that research, the time she spent with people who knew Eunice. Do you think that kind of preparation is typical for actors in Brazil?
Well, I can't speak for every actor, but there is this sense of dedication to the craft that you see a lot in Brazilian cinema.
So it's about telling those stories authentically, really connecting with the audience on an emotional level.
Oh.
Do you think that's what sets Brazilian cinema apart?
I think it's a big part of it. You know, there's this rawness, this passion, a willingness to really explore life, even the difficult parts of it. It's not about escaping, it's about engaging with the world, you know, asking tough questions, getting people to think.
Showing us life as it is.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's what makes it so powerful.
So we've been talking a lot about how important this nomination is for Brazilian cinema. But what about for Fernanda Torres herself? How will this affect her career?
Well, she's already very respected in Brazil, but this will definitely raise her international profile.
For sure.
It could lead to new opportunities, working with different filmmakers, maybe even more of a presence in Hollywood.
Like she's broken through a barrier, right?
Exactly. It's recognition of her talent and her dedication and her ability to connect with people all over the world.
It's also pretty inspiring. She didn't let those early setbacks or doubts get in her way. She just kept going.
That's so important. It reminds us that success isn't always a straight line. There are going to be detours and roadblocks and moments of doubt.
For sure.
But the important thing is to keep moving forward, to keep learning, to keep believing in yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, before we move on to our final part, I want to go back to that blackface controversy that we talked about earlier. It's a good reminder that even as we celebrate someone's success, we have to acknowledge those past mistakes and have those difficult conversations about social progress.
Absolutely. We have to hold ourselves and each other accountable while recognizing that people can change and grow.
Yeah, it's about learning from the past and working towards a better future.
Exactly.
So are you ready to dive into the final part of our deep dive? We're going to be talking about the lasting impact of I'm Still Here and what this nomination means for the future of storytelling. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Fernanda Torres' Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
So we've talked about her journey as an actress, the potential impact at this moment for Brazilian cinema. But
I think it's important to talk about the film itself.
yes, I'm getting there.
It's more than just a personal story, you know? It's really about this dark period in Brazilian history and how it still affects people today.
Yeah, the military dictatorship definitely had a huge impact on Brazil. And this film shows the human cost of that period through Eunice Paiva's experience.
And I think what makes it so powerful is that it's not over the top, you know? It doesn't use violence or drama to shock the audience.
This feels very real.
Yeah, exactly. It focuses on the quiet strength of people like Eunice.
Yeah.
People who were just trying to live their lives and got caught in the middle of this political turmoil.
It's a reminder that hope can exist even in the darkest of times.
Absolutely. I think that's why it resonates with people everywhere. It's a universal experience that struggle to stay strong when everything is falling apart.
And Torres' performance as Eunice is just incredible. It's so subtle, so nuanced.
She really becomes Eunice, and it's not about those big dramatic moments, it's the small things, the
Yeah.
way she looks, the way she moves. You can feel the weight of everything she's going through.
I think she really honors Eunice's story, and by doing that, she gives a voice to all the people who suffered during that time.
Absolutely. But, you know, beyond the historical context, I think I'm Still Here also makes us think about memory, how we deal with the past.
That's a really good point. The film doesn't try to give us easy answers, does it?
Not at all. It just leaves you with these questions about how the past affects us even today.
Like, what do we choose to remember and how do we learn from it?
Exactly. It challenges us to look at those uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world around us.
It makes you think, it makes you question things.
That's what great art should do.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. Fernanda Torres' nomination isn't just about her talent as an actress.
It's about bringing attention to this incredible story.
A story about resilience, about the complexities of history, and about facing the past. It's a story that goes beyond language, beyond borders. It's a reminder that we're all connected in some way.
And maybe this is the start of something bigger, you know? Maybe this will open doors for more stories like this to be told, more voices to be heard.
Yeah, that would be amazing. To everyone listening, we encourage you to see I'm Still Here, if you haven't already. It's a powerful film that will stay with you.
It really will.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.